I have a view that life's a bit too short, and to do one thing your whole life, not boring, but certainly challenges are created when you do different things.
I've heard you dressed up a certain way for one of their birthdays is probably what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I was the blue wiggle for Oscar's first birthday. I am who I am. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and for me, as I said, work is an extension of my family. So I treat the people that work with me essentially like their family.
And I think business is much more fun if you don't take it too seriously.
You got to punctuate life with those moments, otherwise, you're going to get to old age really quickly and not have celebrated much. I think those things, people say, how do you find time? Well, I would argue, how do you not find time? It's one of the questions I ask, which is ridiculously silly, is give me 3 reasons why a giraffe is not tall. Ridiculous, right? I know it's ridiculous. And there is no answer to that question because a giraffe is tall, but some of the answers I've had are completely blank faces.
Hello, welcome to Naked at the Top. Today's guest is someone whose leadership is powered as much by instinct as it is by heart. Ronnie Lewis is a natural connector, a devoted family man, and a leader who doesn't just build businesses, he builds communities. He's built multiple businesses and chaired football clubs. But what really stands out the most is how he shows up for the people around him. Whether that's delivering results at work, showing up with a grandkid in tow, or texting you back mid-meeting, Ronnie's there for his people. Ronnie, welcome to Naked at the Top.
I'm going to get in trouble now for the texting mid-meeting.
I've actually just...
all those other things made me correct though, Alex. Thank you for the nice introduction.
Well, a little anecdote for you. When I was in a meeting with you before, someone called and you always ask permission, can you answer it? But I think that's great because you're finding out, is this really urgent or can I call you back? And I think that's testament to your leadership style and how you like to connect with other people. So I don't think it's a bad thing.
I hope not. Thanks. It's great to meet you with you.
Well, before we start, I really need to know, Ronnie, if I left a mug on your kitchen bunker right now, how many seconds would it take before it disappeared?
You've done a little bit of research, haven't you, Alex? I've got a little bit of ADD on things like that. I think maybe 10 seconds would be your body.
Well, before this interview, I actually spoke to Nick Lewis, who's the GM at one of your businesses, and of course your son, and he told me 30 seconds. So there we go.
Thanks for the heads up.
Ronnie, you've got a few ventures that you're part of. So could you just give me a rundown of your businesses and what your day-to-day looks like?
Sure. So I started life 30 years ago as an executive search recruiter, which is still a very big passion of mine. And from that, about 10 years ago, we started a networking business really to connect our clients through the match executive world. And we thought that that'd be a lot of value to our customers at the time, which it was. And fortunately for us, that's grown, and it's grown beyond our match executive customers. And so now we have a large number of members, many of whom are not match executive clients. So that's actually really exciting. And then most recently, in the last couple of years, I started a business in the residential safety check space in Victoria with a partner of mine who, in fact, was a match executive client. And so Greg and I have started this company called CheckRight, which does safety checks, gas, electrical, and smoke alarm checks for the residential market. And that's a big passion of ours as well, because we know we're doing good for the community and keeping home safe. So it's a lot of fun. It keeps me busy, and also we have a growing family. So yeah, there's a lot of juggling going on.
So you obviously see opportunities in what you do. You started with the recruitment firm, and then you saw an opportunity for the networking, and then someone to partner with for another company. What is it that you're looking for when you're looking at these different opportunities, and what makes you think, yep, let's run with that one? Because I'm sure there's people listening that think, I've got this idea, I'm not sure. Like, what's the trigger for you that you think, go?
I think it always comes back to trying to find an angle for the customer to make it the value add. And certainly in the Match Alliance one, it was quite easy because what we had is a really great network, but we were placing people with these organisations, but not helping them in other ways.
Mm.
That was sort of a bit of a logical one, if you like. It took a bit of thought and a couple of drinking sessions with my then general manager Anthony, and finally we came up with this concept. In fact, even the name wasn't the name we now run with. It was a slightly different name in the first week, but we changed that quickly where we thought it would be a good extension to our recruitment company, which is Match Executive, and we went from Match Executive to Match Alliance on the networking piece. So that was a little bit logical. The other one was a little bit left field, and I think that was really born out of really wanting to. I really enjoy doing different things. I find that interesting. I have a view that life's a bit too short, and to do one thing your whole life, not boring, but certainly challenges are created when you do different things. And that was born out of just looking at the market and seeing what was there. It's a business that is part of a relatively new industry here in Victoria, and we thought we could add value, and we are, and it's really exciting.
So it's really the customers at the heart of it.
Yeah. It has to be. If it doesn't make sense for the customer, there's really no room for you in the market. So
yeah.
That's always been my edict. It's always been customer first, and if you can add value to the customer, then you have a business. If you don't, then you're out.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. What I do with clients as well is, focus on the customer. What is it the customer needs? And everything else just grows from there. So it makes a lot of sense. So you've got 3 businesses, and you said a growing family. You've got a few grandkids and things. How do you keep track of everything? How do you juggle life?
I think for me, that's the joy. I think I've been born with a lot of energy. My dad's 104 and still going, which is pretty amazing. So hopefully I have his genes. But I think when you have energy and a love for life, that these things just fall in and become very natural. And so, I might be picking up my grandson at 3:00 and then a meeting at 4:00 and then something else at 5:00. So my days are pretty full.
Yeah.
But they're enjoyable. I just love all aspects of life. And I probably... If you see, my view of life is it's all one piece. So, family, work, social, and there's lines, but the lines are becoming more blurred, particularly as we all, well, not all, but a lot of us work from home. I think it's being really disciplined and knowing what's important and making it all work.
Yeah. Well, on that subject, there's obviously a lot of talk of work-life balance. I'd love to hear your viewpoint on work-life balance, and is there such a thing?
Yeah, I think there is a thing. I think it's as I said, blurred lines. It's harder while a lot of it's work from home, and our laptop becomes we're chained to it a bit. But I think it's about prioritizing those things, and I think you need pressure valves in your life. And so it would rarely be a day where I'm in meetings from 8 till 5. There's always something in the middle, whether it's a little bit of family time or go to the gym or something. I think it's important for body and mind to be fit, be active, but also have those outlets. So I think if you're doing those things, I think you can squeeze a lot in, and I certainly enjoy my time off, but I certainly go hard when it's time to go.
Yeah. So blending them all together is not a typical 9 to 5 type thing.
Not really. I mean, COVID was sad and tragic for so many people and in so many ways, but for me, it actually really showed me the way to work effectively from home.
Yeah.
And pretty much in all our businesses now, we've got blended workplaces, and that works for us, and we see how it does work. And I think fundamentally it comes down to having good people in your teams, and fortunately I've had the benefit of being in recruitment, and so HR and looking for good people and retaining good people has been something that I guess I've prided myself on. And I think if you select the right people in your business, it really is maybe more than half the battle.
Yeah, because then you can trust them to do the job they need to do, and you don't need to be clock watching them or seeing them in the office.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm very outcome focused. I think it's probably maybe the pinnacle of my management style. It's all about outcome. It's not about hours. It's sort of autonomy over micromanagement. Setting high standards with trust, and you can only do those things if you hire the right people, as you say, and also have honesty as a sort of core value.
Yes.
And if you do those things, know that loyalty is a two-way street. Performance over perfection. They're probably a few of the things that I'd probably say underpin my leadership and management style.
Yeah. So on that one then, obviously you run a recruitment business, and you talk about hiring the right people and building trust. I hear that you have quite curly interview questions that you like to ask to get people to think differently. Could you give me an example of what would a curly interview question be?
You've spoken to my team, haven't you, Alex?
Oh, maybe.
Curly. Yeah, so I don't have a lot of curly questions, but I do like throwing one or two in, because for me, a resume is great. I rarely recruit on a resume. I'll always go a bit deeper, and I think people can prepare well for interview, and I think most people that come to meetings are well prepared. But I think if you throw in a curly one, as you say, I think what you get is an understanding of how these people think on their feet, and for me, that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
I like people that are adaptable. So one of the questions I ask, which is ridiculously silly, is give me 3 reasons why a giraffe is not tall. Ridiculous, right? I know it's ridiculous, and there is no answer to that question, because a giraffe is tall. But some of the answers I've had are completely blank faces.
Yeah,
People just freaking out and sweating. But the ones I love are the people that have an attempt to resolve that problem that's been thrown at them in an interview. That is a problem. And so some of the answers that I've heard and that I love are, a giraffe is not tall when it's lying down. A giraffe is not tall when it's standing next to the Empire State Building. A giraffe is not tall, just its neck is tall. Whatever it is, but it creates conversation, and I think it shows you how these people think under pressure. And so they're the ones I like throwing out. I've got a couple others, but
I love that.
Anyone wants to do more, they can drop me a note.
There we go. If you need some advice on recruitment and asking some curly questions, give a
we do ask more for our clients out there. We do ask some more traditional questions, so they're all freaking out.
Well, this is obviously a podcast all about leadership. So I spoke to a few people who are close to you around your leadership style, and I wanted to share with what some of them said. So Liz, your bookkeeper of 7 years, told me that you take everyone's point of view on board and make things happen without a fuss. And Lauren, who's the director of Match Alliance for over 3 years, said, your leadership is warm and human-centered. You trust fast and it makes everything fun and easy. And then lastly, Nick, the GM of Match Executive, said, you've never been the micromanaging type and you are the yes man, who delegates powerfully and lets people rise. How does it feel hearing some of that back?
Yeah, that's a nice 360. Well done, Alex. It's interesting and nice to hear. For me, I don't act. I am who I am. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and for me, as I said, work is an extension of my family. So I treat the people that work with me essentially like their family. That's a bit of an over the top statement, but there's trust both ways. There's I don't love conflict. I don't think conflict needs to exist. When it needs to happen, I'll take it on, but I personally like to listen to people's views, take them on. When you hire smart people, they have great ideas, so I'm very open to them. It may not always be the final decision, but I'll always take those things on board. And I think if you act in that way, it just makes life very simple. You don't have to come to work with a facade. It's just you are who you are, and that's who I am. And I think you mentioned also that I was involved as a president of a local footy club for 9 years, and I was the same there as well. It's just all an extension, and those players who played in our club, but just respect both ways, a bit like family. And I think it's just the way I like to run my life, to be honest.
Yeah, on the football, I heard that you were often you'd be cleaning the football boots and things like that. So you're not afraid to get your hands dirty. What kind of inspires you to be doing all these parts? Because obviously you don't need to be doing it.
I think if I look at the 3 businesses that I'm involved in, they're all startups. So I've always been on my own initially, and I've always had to do it all.
Yeah. And
I think leading from the front is a great way to lead, because if your people know that you can do their job, they can, one, get value from you, but also talk to you about that. And so if it's sweeping the sheds, and I've read the book about the All Blacks New Zealand rugby team that sweep their own sheds, I think It's a great leveler. It's a great way to take accountability. And so if anyone can do it, why can't I? Now, I'm sure the CEO of BHP who might be looking at this is probably going, that guy's crazy. And sure, when you're running an organization of that size, you can't be sweeping the sheds. But, running small and medium-sized businesses, and I think leading from the front in those types of businesses is the best way to lead.
Yeah.
And that's just me, and that's my style. And maybe it also runs with a little bit of my ADD. I like things clean. I like things done. So, yeah, I'm not happy, and not unhappy to pick it up. And I was there actually no longer as a president, but I was there watching my son play a couple of weeks ago. And as I was walking out, I noticed that there was a boy who actually picked up a broom and started sweeping the sheds. That's something I haven't seen for a little while. And that means those messages are getting through. And I think that is how you build organizations. It's how you build culture, and it's how you build communities.
Yeah.
So I'm strong on those things, and that's how I operate.
Yeah, and it comes back to that mutual respect. If they see you doing it and leading from there, then they're more likely to want to do that as well. Yeah.
That's my view.
Yeah.
That's
Well, so looking back at just like the past week, could you think of a moment in time over the last week where you've maybe had to pull yourself back from an idea and trust someone else to run with it?
Yeah, that's a good one. Those things happen all the time, and I think in our Match Alliance business, in conversations with Lauren about certain ideas around marketing or management of our existing members, it's I've got ideas all the time. It's one of the things I love doing. I think I just ponder in the shower and in other places, and I'll come up and I'll just ring Lauren with 6 ideas, and they don't all fly and they don't all work, and so bouncing those things off. And so we had one last week in relation to a marketing idea, and she won. It's good. It's a bit left field, but yeah, the other things they happen probably every day, and I don't chase on them. I think it's great to have ideas generation from 2 ways, and some get up and some don't. But that's a good thing. It's a really healthy thing.
Yeah. So Lauren won. So how does one win you over with their idea, Ronnie? What do they need to do?
I think it needs to be outcome focused. It needs to make sense. It needs to be commercial. It needs to add value to our customer. And it needs to be relatively easy to implement. I don't want to take my eye off the ball implementing a new idea that's going to completely take our eye off the main game. So they need to be, I think, they can be grandiose, but they need to be done in bite-sized chunks.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And that way they happen on time, and we're not taking our eye off the ball, which I think is really critical.
Yeah. So have a grand idea, but have it broken down into a way that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm really big on that, and I think when you have targets and have stretch targets in a business, which is really important, I like breaking them down to quarterly and monthly activities and result measurement, so that we can see how we're tracking and get a sense, and if it's not working, adapt and make the changes. But I think they need to be done in bite-sized chunks.
Yeah. You just talked there about running ideas past people within your team, and then taking up their ideas. So there'll be a lot of people listening to this that may struggle with delegation and just entrusting the team a little bit more. What's your secret to that, and what can you share with the listeners when it comes to delegation?
I think before I put any idea out, I understand the options, and I'm aware that one of the options is we don't do it, and I'm actually comfortable with that. If it's something I'm really, really passionate about, I'll actually drive it harder than something that I think is just a ho-hum idea. But I think not everything can be a win, and that's sometimes hard for people, and I do get that. But I think it's a win sometimes if it's a no, if it makes sense, and it's about backing your people and listening to your people, and rather have that than make all this expenditure or spend some time on something that's just not going to get up. Yeah. So I think if you're not listening to your people, you either don't have the right people, or you're just not coming with the right frame.
Yeah. And any tips for those that are just gung-ho on what they want to do, and any kind of listening skill set that you can give? Because as somebody who works in the communication space, I would say listening is actually more important than speaking, but not everyone's great at it. Have you got any tips?
My business partner in Czech, Greg, is massive on 2 ears, 1 mouth. And, we've all heard it, right? But when he says it and you get reminded of it, it's actually really good. And he uses that often in meetings.
Yeah.
And I think, when we are entrepreneurial or, we really have that growth mindset and we want to drive our ideas forward, it's really, you got to be really careful and just make sure you're listening as much as you're talking.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm doing that right now, Alex, am I?
You are. You're doing a great job of listening, Ronnie. All right. What's been, over the last week? We won't go too much further. I won't test your memory. Over the last week, what's just been a great high for you? What's been a really standout moment for you in the past week? And that can be in your personal life or at work.
It's a good question. It's interesting. One stands out. We were doing something in our check write business using an outsourced provider, and I was speaking to this person and could sense that there was something up with it. Mm-hmm. And I actually called that person on it and had a phone call offline with them later, and that was a bit of advice. There was nothing in it for me, and I just really wanted to help that person. And I look for those moments. I think I'm being a Virgo. I'm a natural wanting to help.
Yeah.
And that was a nice one. I got a nice text message from that person later that day. So there are opportunities to look for, and not every opportunity is a commercial one, and I'm actually really fine with that. I just like helping people, and when you do that, I know that good things happen. And I know in our networking business, I often tell our members that if you give first and receive second, it's the best way to do business. So
yeah. And it brings a great joy, doesn't it, when you know that you've been someone out. Yeah.
It's giving charity, helping people. It's probably the biggest buzz I get, and that's why I spent 9 years in community football in an unpaid president gig, because it was just gave me so much energy, and to see the work you can put in and the difference you can make. I think it's important, particularly if you're in a business that doesn't necessarily have that or yield that on a regular basis. I really encourage anyone listening here to do community work or do some charity. It really is a feel good, and it helps you in so many aspects of your life. So big believer of that.
Yes, beautiful message. Talking about energy, I hear you're very high energy. In fact, Nick actually told me that you bounce from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. But was there a low over the past week for you? It just really exhausted you, or was just quite a down moment over the past week, or is it been great for you?
I think anyone who says they're up all day every day is probably not telling the truth. Look, I actually sleep badly. I suffer from sleep apnea, so I actually don't sleep well. And so most mornings when I wake up, I do push myself to get going. But there are some times where it's a bit harder. But I have a routine. I'm either doing gym or going for walks or doing something. For me, it's just one. When you're having those moments, it literally is one step after another.
Yeah.
I've got a few mental cues. One of them is look up. Literally, if you look up, try that. If you're listening. If you look up, good things happen. I think something happens to your brain. So I'll look up a bit, or I'll just breathe for a bit. But I think there's a lot to be happy for in life, and I think you got to find those moments. And you got to work through pain. I'm suffering from a knee issue at the moment, and it's painful. But just try and compartmentalize it and move forward. And I think all of us have those pains, mental or physical, in our life, and it's just a matter of having the outlet, something to look forward to. I'm a massive believer on having a holiday book.
Yeah.
If it's for 2 days in the country, I think that's something that we all should look forward to in most stages of our year. So I think they're the outlets that I really push for to get me through. But I think I might be blessed with I don't drink coffee. So I just have natural.
I'm in Melbourne and you don't drink coffee?
I don't drink coffee. I do the odd Diet Coke, actually, maybe a bit more than the odd Diet Coke, which is a bit of a caffeine hit. But I just get it from, I don't know, the air.
Well, I'm going to be trying this licking up now.
You're right.
Another one, I don't know if you've heard of Mel Robbins, but she wrote a book called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's really simple. But anytime you just you don't want to do something, you just got to do it. You just count back from one. So say you got to make a sales call, it's just 5, 4, 3, 2, just pick up. And it works.
That's a good one.
It does work.
I think if it works for you, run with it.
Yeah. All right, so you love to show up for other people and help people out, as I said in the intro.
Mm.
How do you always show up for people without burning out?
It's a very good question. I think it's just natural for me. I'm actually a bit of a voyeur of life, so I'm really interested in people.
Yeah.
And so when I'm interviewing, when I'm recruiting, when I'm talking to our members, when I'm talking to clients on the check right side and our trade people, I'm actually just generally interested in what they're about. And that actually gives me the energy. So I think for me, I've got to be in situations where I'm around people and in people businesses, which is, if you look at the common denominator of the business I'm in, and let's face it, the businesses that most people in, my role has got to be somewhere towards the front. So I'm seeing customers, seeing suppliers, working with staff, because that's where I personally get my energy. I know there are some people who, love to be alone and on the computer and, programming all day, and that's, they must get their energy another way. But for me, I literally get it from people. So I just am full of that sort of energy on a daily basis because of the interactions. And again, there are times, you got to work through that. But in the main, I just find that very natural. And I feel blessed to be in businesses where I can be myself and not be too formal. And I think having fun's important. So hopefully that's coming across, but I like to have a little bit of fun, whether I'm interviewing and talking about giraffes or whether I'm working in my check right business. I think ultimately we're actually all big kids.
Yes.
I've got a view of that. And I think, what you do so well, telling stories and building brands and being communicative in that way is a great way to be. And personally, I think I'm a big kid. And often I think I'm just talking to big kids.
Yeah.
So I keep it light, keep it fun, and like to tell messages in story format.
Yeah. Well, we are all big kids, and I think business is much more fun if you don't take it too seriously.
I think I said at the top, we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time.
You're not.
Except for my dad. But it means trying to work and not necessarily have fun, but enjoy it at the same time and create opportunities and wins for people to enjoy it. So in all the businesses I'm in, we always celebrate wins. It's a really important thing to do, because you can just go through days and days and weeks without any celebration. And sometimes in a business where you have a very long lead cycle, you don't make a sale every day.
Yes.
So you got to celebrate those small things when they occur, and we definitely do that.
How do you celebrate the wins? Can you give us an example?
It's if I'm away from the office, it's a really nice message. If I'm in the office, it's it's a bit glib, but it's a high five, or it's a bit of a roar. We have a bell in our office that we used to ring. That's a bit passe. There's a whole range of things we do, but I just think you need to steal the moment. I think it's in life as well, celebrating your 30th or your 40th or your grandkid or whatever it is. You got to punctuate life with those moments, otherwise, you're going to get to old age really quickly and not have celebrated much.
Yeah. Well, talking about you just brought up your grandkids there and having fun, and what do you do with your grandkids for fun? And particularly I've heard you dressed up a certain way for one of their birthdays is probably what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I was the blue wiggle for Oscar's first birthday. That was a lot of fun with a few other family members. It was my idea, and they all came along for the ride, and it was brilliant. And the kids loved it. I just try and resonate at their level. And I've got one grandson who's 8 months. I've got a Oscar who's 4 years, and there are different things. But for Oscar, it's running around and running through a sprinkler, and for Henry, it's taking him to the ducks, and But I maybe just do that naturally because, I think I'm a big kid. I think I mentioned that earlier, and so. It's just having fun and knowing that, being part of their development is really important, and having fun and working with them in that way is important. And, probably the pinnacle of everything for me is family.
Yes.
So that's my starting point. Everything I do in life and in business is for family. So when it's a starting point, I also find that pretty easy.
Yeah. And
I think we all have our values, but I think once you have your values for life, you've got to believe in them and run towards them. And if you do them consistently, life becomes pretty easy because you just, living your true self and your true life.
Yeah. And that came about really clearly when I was speaking to people before this interview. Family, they said, is your number one priority. And I think Lauren actually said that you turned up to her house one morning with a grandkid in tow. So I think it goes back to the way you talk about blending, work
Yeah.
and life and being able to bring them all together. Do you, I know it sounds a bit cliche, but do you often see your businesses and your team as family as well? Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah, very much.
for you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I think I mentioned that earlier. I think it is. I think it's the way you just build relationships. I think if you want to be treated as you want to treat someone as you want to be treated, and I think in family you do that, and I think in business you do the same. And I just find that a really easy way to manage people. It might become over the top when you're bringing grandkids to meetings, but it's not a regular, and I'm sure Lauren enjoyed that moment. And if she didn't, well, what can I say?
You did.
I know she did.
She also told me actually that sometimes you need to be reminded you're the granddad and not the dad. But I I think that's a testament to just how much you love your family.
Maybe I'm a relatively young granddad. I don't know, but yeah, that's it's a funny one. I often say to my kids that I love my grandkids more than them, but I think in reality, being a grandfather is actually just being a father again, and so sometimes that gets a bit blurred because it's just in your 30s and your 20s and 30s when you're raising kids, quite often it's a pretty stressful time at life, and a little bit later in life you can maybe enjoy it a bit more. And so maybe I'm enjoying my grandkids just that little bit more because maybe I'm a bit more relaxed or what it is. But yeah, I sort of feel like it's second coming of fatherhood.
Yeah, it's a really special relationship you have with your grandparents. I have a very special relationship with my gran, and we live obviously at the other side of the world, so we don't have our parents around. So if you're looking for any adoptive grandkids and you fancy babysitting, I've got a few for you. You can dress up as a wiggle anytime at a birthday
Hey,
party.
just let me know. We'll be there. I've kept the shirt. I've kept the blue shirt.
Fantastic. So to keep up with your grandkids and all the three businesses and things like that, like what do you like to do to keep yourself fit and healthy?
I've got a few obsessions. I've got a infrared sauna at home, so that's one of my obsessions. I'm in there nearly every day. I love pickleball. It's my newfound love. I started that about 6 months ago and play once a week, and that's amazing fun. If you haven't tried that, get on a pickleball court. Social, fun, competitive, good workout, and then I go to gym 3 times a week. So it's a bit to fit in, but it just happens, and I love all their. They're probably my 3 obsessions at the moment, and they're all part of what I do. So that's good.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to, especially with weights and things, keeping your body active and strong. And actually, Nick told me that your personal trainer's got a nickname for you. Do you know what the nickname is? Can you recall it?
Go on, shock me.
I think it was Ronnie Biceps Lewis.
She actually had a t-shirt made for my birthday, which was exactly that.
Oh, I love that.
I'm not sure if the viewers can see they're not that massive, the biceps, so I'm not sure what that's actually quite about, but yeah. It's all a bit of fun.
So do you think like the keeping fit and things helps with your leadership and how you run your businesses?
Yeah, I think people need to present themselves, and not necessarily elite fitness, but I think they need to present and be in a way that is conducive to being good, and good examples to your family and good examples to your team, and I think that is living healthy lifestyles, which includes an element of and fitness. And certainly from my perspective, the more I work out and the more I do sauna and those things, the more energy and the more just probably the better I am, to be honest. And so I think those things, people say, how do you find time? Well, I would argue, how do you not find time? It's a bit of a, you put it in your diary and it happens. And there have been times I've been called out of a gym session for an urgent phone call, but if that's the worst that happens, you take it and you do it. But in the main, it works well. And I would recommend anyone listening to this, if you're not living an active lifestyle and you're able to, then you should definitely, even if it's walking, I think it's so important. And I talked to, we're involved in the trade business, in our check write business, and I talk to our trade teams, and some of those guys, particularly in management roles, are at their desk all day and they're taking calls and stuff. And I said, why don't you just go for a half an hour walk and take your calls while you're walking? So if you're in a position where you're able to do that, that's something I'd really recommend. I think it's a great way to start the process.
Yeah, and walking meetings as well. I remember my old walking meeting where we were just
it's great.
Chat. Yeah.
You can think you've got something hard to talk about.
Yeah,
you can sort of just you're not in across the desk in this confrontational way. It's you're sitting side by side, and you're looking across, and you go, buddy, what do you think of this idea? Or why don't we redo that? I'm not sure. It's much easier when you're walking. I think your blood's flowing, your heart's pumping. People are happy. It's a good thing to do.
And you open up more. I think there's something about walking side by side and having a chat. Maybe it's because you're not face to face. You're more likely to open up and
definitely
get more out of it. I think as well driving in the car as well. There's something about people are more likely to open up when it's side by side.
Absolutely. Well, there's nowhere to go, right?
You've got no choice.
Exactly. That's the other thing.
All right, we're nearly towards the end, Ronnie. I'd like to play just a quick fire game with you, if you don't mind.
Sure. You didn't prep me on this one, Alex.
So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You can either answer, dodge, or throw it back to me.
Oh, good. Okay, this will be fun.
Okay. All right. Who was the last person you called, and what did you chat about?
It was Nick, and it was in relation to a potential candidate for our business.
Great. Did they get the job?
We'll know later today. I think so. I think so.
All right. Pickleball, infrared sauna, or gym?
I'll run with infrared.
Infrared. All right, great. And what do you listen to in the infrared sauna?
Oh, it's not meditation stuff. It's all my 80s. Yeah, so I find that there's time for meditation. For me in the sauna, a bit of movement, a bit of tapping the feet actually makes the time pass. So yeah, I'm more of my 80s hit list is out in the sauna.
I've never heard of that. I'm gonna have to. I've never heard any.
It's very. What's the word?
Niche.
The other way. The other way.
What was the last thing you giggled?
How to rehab my meniscus.
What was the answer?
Unfortunately, a lot of boring rehab and exercise, walking in the water and stuff like that.
Yeah, my husband's done his ACL and his meniscus, and he's in the middle of physio at the moment and operations.
I'm not a great patient, just FYI, Alex.
Neither's he. What's your go-to at Giorgio's?
Soy hot chocolate. There you go.
Lovely.
I don't do coffee. I told you that.
All right, fantastic. That was the end of our game. I'm glad.
No extra hard questions in there, Alex. Thank you for that.
I'm glad you didn't throw any of them to me, so thank you.
No, I didn't. Maybe next time.
Just to end, Ronnie, I like to just end on a gift for all the listeners. Something where you can pass on your insight. And from everyone that I spoke to about you, they just said Ronnie shows up, he's loyal, he's heart first, and he lifts others, and he really means it. Now, there's going to be a lot of people out there that are just struggling, they're stretched, and they just like, I don't have time to be showing up for other people. What advice would you pass on to them today?
I think showing up for other people is probably one of the most important things we can do as a leader. And we're talking about, in the management role and leadership roles, I think you just need to be present, be really interested in your people. I take a really personal interest in my people, so I know the kids' birthdays, I know the kids' names, I know what footy teams they're voting for. But I do that because I have a genuine interest, and I think if you do that, you can take your management and leadership style to a different level and one that actually becomes fun and rewarding. So I would just say be present, be out there, and be yourself.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Ronnie. It's been wonderful to have you on. And if anyone does want to connect with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
You can see me on LinkedIn, Ronnie Lewis, and I'm always responsive. And so please drop me a note. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ronnie.
Thanks, Alex. Have a great day.